time to check in again on Bbig, and today we are down by about 1.78% with Bbig. So again, it is another day in the red. We have a while to go until the markets do close, but we can see the trend that we are seeing once again today. Let's have a look at why this might be. We'll have a look at the wider market as well, because if you do remember from our last video, that was also doing pretty weak. So yeah, we'll have a look at how that is doing today. We'll also have a look at the options in a moment and all of that sort of good stuff. All of that is coming up in this video. Make sure to give it a like and of course subscribe if you haven't done so already. But do remember, this is only my personal opinion and definitely should not be taken as financial advice. I think it's very important, as I always say, that people are informed of the risks. So do your own research, educate yourself about the stock, because it is important to do so before making any decisions, and certainly do not make any decisions based on anything that I do say. Now I've said that though, we're going to jump into the video and have a look at what we are seeing across Bbig and across the wider markets today. So ultimately, things are quite rocky today, but we are seeing a little bit of a comeback on some of the markets. We are seeing the S&P 500 have a rocky start, but ultimately we are in the green by about 0.5% today. We can see that we're almost up by 1% on the Dow Jones. Over here on the Nasdaq, we're up by 0.35%, and down here on the Russell, we are just about positive, up by 0.10%. So clearly things on the market are quite flat, you know, they're not really moving up by a massive amount, but it is nice to see them in the green, especially after yesterday. Notably though, on the Nasdaq down here, and also on the Russell 2000, we saw a bit of a dip just a few hours ago, and somewhat even here on the S&P 500 and even the Dow Jones, but I think it's important to note that these did actually take the Nasdaq and the Russell 2000 into the red for a brief period of time. So again, that's just a bit of a look at the wider markets today, and of course how that may influence Bbig. So once more, it's been a bit of a rocky start to the day, in the sense that yes, the markets are somewhat up at the moment, but when we look at our favourite stocks over here, we can see it is a mixed story. We've seen a few of these actually shine through into the green, most notably down here we are seeing LCID in the green, a few others as well, but notably we're seeing things like ATER, we're seeing MRIN, and we're seeing AMC all take big dips today. And you could argue that the one thing that these have in common is that they're all quote-unquote meme stocks. So again, that's just what we are seeing in the wider market, especially with stocks in this quote-unquote sector. Of course, not fundamentally in this sector, but I'm on about how people are playing them. So, you know, we're seeing this across a lot of our favourite stocks. I think that is worth noting. But now we're going to have a look at how the stock has been moving on the simple charts, then we'll look at the options, and then we'll do a bit of a technical analysis. And we're going to start off over here and look at the motion throughout the day. So 9:30 up until about 9:44 saw a drop in price. You know, it wasn't too big, but it took us to this point down here of about $6.07. From there we climbed up to highs of the day, which were at about 6:43, and from there we were falling all the way through until about 1:10. So from there we actually saw a bit of a spike after that, but realistically from there up until now we've seen some nice consolidation, and I am happy with that. Clearly we haven't really dropped much lower than this level here, which was just about $6, so I'm happy to see that we have stayed above that $6 mark for the majority of the day. Yes, we had a little bit of a spike below it down here, I do believe, but of course it didn't really last for too long, so that is good to see. So ultimately, we're finding a bit of a support at $6 in my personal opinion. Again, we do appear to be able to remain above that for the time being. There is still about 40 or 50 minutes to go until the market does close, so things definitely could change, but that's just what we are seeing so far. Now we're going to have a look at the options and what is going on with Bbig on the options. So we're going to refresh the page and we're going to have a look at what the numbers do read for 2 days in the future. So one thing that we're going to do is we're going to scroll down and we're going to have a look at all of the options. We can see these are expiring in 2 days from now, and we're going to have a look at how the numbers are looking on these. So one thing that we saw in the past week, if you guys will remember, we saw a lot of options being just out of the money by a really tiny amount, and it was quite frustrating, and we actually had a few more puts in the money, I believe it was, than what we had options in the money. But this week the data isn't looking too bad so far, for a few reasons, but we'll get into that in just a second. So we're going to have a look at the puts first, then compare this to the calls, and then have a look at what this means. Over here we can see the notable thing is volume, so basically how many of these are going on. And we can see if we get down to $6, we will have an extra 1,300 puts in the money according to bar chart. Now this is the largest order on the chart, so realistically we do not want to break below $6 by Friday, because that would have a massive advantage for the puts. But ultimately, the volume for a lot of these puts, which are actually all in the money from here and beyond, not a lot of these have been taken out. We're seeing very, very low volume for these puts on this stock. We're seeing numbers up here like 24, 25. Of course, they're going to be relatively low volume. But coming back down to a more reasonable level, you know, $10 and below, we are still seeing relatively low volume for the puts on this stock. You can see over here, even at levels like $10 or even $8.50, or things even lower than that at $7, we have relatively low volume figures, which you can see. We would expect this to be a bit higher, but realistically the puts are not looking too bad for the stock at the moment. A lot of them are in the money, but due to the fact that there are not a lot of them at all, it doesn't really mean too much in my opinion. Now what we are seeing down here for the volume for the calls is a bit better. We are definitely seeing a lot of volume at $6, so realistically, in my opinion, $6 is going to be kind of somewhat a make or break for this week when it comes to the options. If we can remain above it, it would have massive advantages for the calls. If we can remain below it, it would have massive advantages for the puts. So really, I hope that we do manage to stay above the $6 mark for the end of this week, but only time will tell, as we are so close to it right now. But of course, there's about 2 days to go until we do have these options expiring anyway. But yeah, going into this in a bit more detail, if we can get to higher levels, it would be beneficial, because what we are seeing here at prices 1, 2, 3, all the way up to 6 is relatively low volume for options, again with the exception of 6 most notably. But if we get all the way up to $6.50, 7, all the way up to $8 perhaps, we can see from this point here at $6 all the way up to $8.50, or even $8 exactly, we're seeing relatively high volume in comparison to some of the other figures. You know, get up to $6.50, we're looking at an extra 3.3k. Get up to $7, we're looking at an extra 4.9k on top of that 3k, and you can see the big figures that we are seeing in comparison to where we are at now. So really, if we could make it all the way up to a point like here of either $7.50 or $8 by the end of week, that would be ideal for the call options, but how likely that is to happen, I'm just not sure as of current. But again, one thing that I have said when we come back to the charts is that we are seeing some okay consolidation in this mid to high $5 range, definitely now today in the $6 range, so hopefully this could be a sign of a trend upwards coming in the future. But I think there are a few factors to play into that. Of course, the general market will have an influence, as well as a few other factors, and as I said in yesterday's video, I do like the stock, but ultimately some people, you know, they do not want to hold it for as long as it may take, because, you know, if you'd bought them from the highs, of course, figures in people's accounts would probably be in the negative right now. It definitely does get people thinking, as the stock price does continue to drop, what happens now? And of course, some people do not want to hold to find out. That's fine, guys. Of course, everybody has their own trading strategy, but it's just something which may happen, and we may definitely lose a few investors along the way. Now, as I always say, the momentum, if that carries on, I think we are in a prime position. I think that is always going to be the case. That is my rule with this stock, or with most of these short squeeze stocks, because it is a very simple and easy to understand rule. If we have the interest remain, if we have the short interest remain on top of the retail interest, there's no reason why the stock cannot see a short squeeze, in my opinion. If we have that volume come back in, if we see the increased buying pressure again, there's no reason why we can't at least see the stock push higher. And again, people always doubt these short squeeze movements. Just look at AMC, it's sat on $35, it was sat on less than $5 at the beginning of the year. So, you know, things really can move with the momentum of investors. But one thing to note is that it does take the momentum of investors. Are the investors going to remain interested in this stock for as long as it takes? And one thing that I always say with these short squeeze stocks, I do personally believe it would be beneficial for the community if people, you know, perhaps came together on a few of these stocks, a very select few of these stocks, rather than going for the next quote-unquote short squeeze stock almost all the time, because when we do that, we lose out on big profits, potentially just to make small, tiny profits. Just my opinion, as of course, but you know, that's just what I believe. Now we're going to have a look at the 1 day, 5 day and 1 month charts for the stock, and what we are seeing over here with the adjusted figures counting in today's data. Down here we have seen a moving average ever so slightly lower than where we are right now, because, you know, we have seen volatility throughout the day, and of course it is a lagging indicator. It's going to take time to catch up, as you would expect, but because we've seen a little bit of a spike at the end of the day, as we sometimes do with this stock, it is, you know, just lagging behind by a small amount. Now coming down here to the MACD, we are ever so slightly negative on that right now, but the 1 day data for that, in my opinion, isn't too significant, because I do personally see this stock as more of a swing trade than a day trade, but that's just my opinion. But yeah, it is slightly negative right now, and on the RSI we're sat on 45, which is nothing to be concerned about. It's only 5 points away from neutral, so that is good in my opinion. On the 5-day charts, we are seeing a moving average just a little bit higher than where we are right now. Of course, you can just see the purple tab sticking out on top of the red right there, so not really anything to read from that at all. Very, very small discrepancy, not really anything that matters too much, and again, it is higher than where we are right now because it is lagging behind, tracking the past 5 days data. We're almost flat on this MACD trend right here, but we are ever so slightly in the red, as you can see on the bearish side, and down here on the RSI we're sat on 43. Coming out to the 1 month chart, you can see that the moving average is sat on 525. Of course, as I always say, this is still going to be moving up over time because it is a 50-day moving average. It tracks the past 50 days and it has not had the opportunity to catch up to current share prices yet. And of course, this one is going to be massively out on data if we do see big moves, whether it be upwards or downwards with any stock. And the volume that we are seeing today, according to Yahoo Finance, is at 17.97 million. We are seeing a MACD trend which is becoming bearish. However, we are seeing a few bullish candles in there right now, so it definitely could be an early sign of a bit of a reversal. And again, I'll speak about that in just a moment, but I think it is very early to surmise that opinion right now, just my personal opinion. Let's have a look at the RSI down here, which is also sat on 45. So as I said, when it was previously sat on 45 on the 1 day chart, that's not really too far out of neutral for me to be concerned at all. It's quite okay, and of course it is a bit low because we are seeing that selling pressure, or at least that decrease in price over the past few days. Now, of course, what I was speaking about just a while ago is the fact that $6 would be a really nice support for this stock. You can see over here, we did break just below it in the past, but you know, if we can remain above 6, it would, one, put us in a really fantastic position going forwards into Friday because of those options, as I said. Of course, it would be a nice support level to bounce off as well, so that would be a great thing. And it is something that we really statistically can do. You know, looking at the past, we've been very close to it down here, and even at some points today, we have come close to the $5 range. We've even touched it at some points, but realistically, we have managed to bounce off that $6 range, as you can see right here based on this line. We bounced off it for a very long time, and I think going forwards we definitely could finish above it, and that would put us in a good position for tomorrow. If we could see some movement upwards, that would be nice for tomorrow, but ultimately I wouldn't be too disappointed with a flat consolidation day either. Even if we see a very, very small move down, and I'm speaking very small, I would be happy with that as well. But ultimately, I'm looking for a relatively flat day tomorrow, if not some okay growth. Bear in mind, guys, like I said, for those options, we do want to see that growth come back in the next 2 to 3 days. Of course, in the next 2 days, but going forwards into next week, it would be nice as well. So thank you for watching, guys. I will see you soon. Goodbye. So thank you for watching through till the end, but let me tell you about our Discord. So on your screen you will be seeing the N2S Finance Discord. Obviously it is split into multiple sections. Basically at the top we have updates from me and all that kind of good stuff. If you scroll down a bit further, we have the main sections where we focus on cryptos, SPACs and other hot stocks, including penny stocks, even stable growth stocks as well, and we even have a special AMC GME chat. If you scroll down you can see some research and DD from the community. We also have funny memes and you can see actual contributions from members down here. And again, if you do join us, it is completely free, link is down below. But if you do want to become a Patreon, you will actually get a pink sticker which will be displayed on your name. So your name will come up in pink as mine comes up in red down here, and that will show that you are a Patreon. But other than that, guys, you can join completely for free down below. You do not have to pay anything if you do not want to. Thank you for watching, see you soon.